Okay, hey everyone, this is Oren, and I'm here with Adam, and we're here the day before the Oscar announcements to talk about our wish lists. And Adam, I have to start off with a Kanye West-like rant about the two popes, because I've been following the Oscar race for 17 years, and I don't think I've ever been this frustrated, because for the last month or so, I've just been expecting this very great film to be nominated, and I'm just seeing it slowly stripped away and slowly go down the totem pole of chances to be nominated for anything. I think this is a genre like The Darkest Hour, The Queen, The King's Speech, where it's a really stale genre that Oscar keeps nominating for Best Picture, where it's just stodgy old figures talking politics in a historical setting. And this movie found a way to make it relevant, found a way to make it moving, found a way to make it haunting with flashbacks. And it's just such a shame that they nominated those films, but it sounds like they're not going to nominate this film. So that's the thing that I'm pretty scared of. I'm going to be pretty bummed out about tomorrow morning.
Well, I wouldn't count it out. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the two popes got some nominations. Now, if you're right, and if they don't, I think it's likely because Netflix also has The Irishman and Marriage Story, and they probably focus more attention on those than they have on the two popes. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if it were to get a nomination or two, or maybe more tomorrow.
I would love to see it get a nomination for Anthony Hopkins and Jonathan Pryce. Jonathan Pryce he's pretty old. I don't think he'll get a nomination after it. He never gets a lot of starring roles or lead roles, so I think it's probably the last chance. I mean, I can't imagine them ever casting him in such a part. So, what are the three things that what's on your wish list for tomorrow?
Number one, I would love to see Lupita Nyong'o be nominated for a performance in Us, which I thought was extraordinary. She was actually playing two different characters, and she did it seamlessly. My concern is that since Us came out, I believe, last February, that people may not remember it the way they should. So, but I would love to see that. I would also love to see a Best Picture nomination for Knives Out, which was just a lot of fun. It kind of caught me off guard. I knew it would be good. I didn't know it would be that funny and clever as it was. Number three, and this is more of a long shot, I would love to see a nomination for The Last Black Man in San Francisco, which was one of my favorite films. It flew a little bit under the radar. It's probably more of an independent spirit type, but I would be very happy were to get a nomination or two tomorrow.
I think that, so in terms of Lupita Nyong'o, I think it would be nice because, number one, it's a genre performance. Probably more than Dan Kaluuya in Get Out. I'd probably like to see that as well. For Knives Out, I actually like that a little more than the two popes, but I guess I wasn't rooting for that because it seemed like more of a long shot. If it comes in, I'll be very happy, but I'm not sure what the chances are. I think it's pretty long. I've also been meaning to ask you about a film that I haven't seen as many as you. I've seen Ford vs. Ferrari climbing up in the rankings. What's so special about this film in particular? It seems like a film that I'm not sure. I'm not sure what specifically is the draw here.
Well, it's a film that used to be made more often. Kind of a more bread and butter, star-centered film.
What decade do you think it alludes to? Is it like the kind of 70s kind of All the President's Men type thing?
Well, you can even go back to the 60s, some of the car racing films that someone like John Frankenheimer did. I think because it was not a superhero picture, people considered it kind of a pleasant surprise because it was more old-fashioned. A group of people a group of professionals trying to do something, trying to accomplish something very difficult. People have compared it to a Howard Hawks film with some good reason, but it's not the type of film that we're seeing out of a major studio as much as we used to.
Yeah, but couldn't you make that same argument for, say, Beirut last year, or Bad Times at El Royale, or pretty much anything on this list? Us isn't a superhero film. The Last Black Man in San Francisco isn't a superhero film. Knives Out isn't. We're honoring films that aren't superhero films. So I'm still. I heard it's emotional at the end, or it's like it's a little bit of like a dreamer's film, like Seabiscuit, where it's just a happy ending that sort of knocks you over a little bit emotionally.
Well, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen. I will say it's not. The ending is, I would consider it much more bittersweet. But this was a big budget studio film with big movie stars. That wasn't, not out of Netflix, but out of, I think, Warner Brothers. That I think that was the part that people don't see as much anymore. Knives Out was another one that was also kind of a throwback. People look at compare it to, let's say the Sidney Lumet's version of Murder on the Orient Express, or some of those type films.
Well, not as impressive of a cast as Murder on the Orient Express, because I don't think there's a single Oscar winner in the movie, but it's definitely a hodgepodge of talent and smart casting.
Christopher Plummer's an Oscar winner.
Oh, you're right. You are correct. Yeah. Well, to also think that in terms of Oscar winners and Oscar nominees, The Irishman is pretty loaded, and we could potentially see 3 people who have already won Oscars get nominated again for playing the parts that they're generally used to playing. I'm not sure. Now, I've only seen about an hour of The Irishman because it felt like Goodfellas combined with like Old Dogs, or one of those movies they made in the late zeros where it was just, let's celebrate a bunch of old guys, or like Space Cowboys or something. But Joe Pesci, Al Pacino, and Robert De Niro have all won Oscars and been nominated for Oscars for playing thugs. And honestly, I can understand Joe Pesci won his Oscar for playing an underling and he's playing a thug, but I feel like I don't need to see Al Pacino get nominated for playing a thug again. He's had at least 3 Oscar nominations for playing a thug, and then in Serpico he played an undercover thug, so I feel like you could leave him out and put like Anthony Hopkins in or something.
Well, I need to disagree with you about calling them all thugs. The character De Niro plays, you could call a thug, because he's the muscle, he's the guy that will go do things. Joe Pesci is playing a mob boss and playing a very different type of gangster than he usually plays. You think of him traditionally, and he's the very frenetic, hot-tempered, kind of out of control, violent person. And here he's much more restrained, much more nuanced.
I think with Robert De Niro and same like Mad Dog and Glory, like him being like a guy who's an ordinary he's like the Ray Liotta part in Goodfellas in this movie. And because Robert De Niro has done comedic roles for the past 20 years, and I'm a little more forgiving of Robert De Niro being nominated for this thing, but Al Pacino, it seems like people only want to know him for the thug roles. They were extremely unforgiving of him being nominated for like Scent of a Woman, or like whatever he was doing in The Insider, or The Merchant of Venice. I would rather see him get nominated for The Merchant of Venice, where he's like doing Shakespeare or something,
Well, I don't think. Pacino plays Jimmy Hoffa, a very powerful labor leader. And say what you want about Jimmy Hoffa, but he was a very powerful and influential leader of one of the biggest labor unions in the U.S. So I wouldn't call it a thug role per se, but it is closer to what you would expect from Al Pacino, and I think that's why audiences reacted to it, because Joe Pesci has been out of pocket for a while. Robert De Niro, as you noted, was mostly done comedic roles. So this was taking the Mount Rushmore of modern gangster films and putting it into a setting that they have done traditionally but haven't done for a while. And also, it's a very smart film. It doesn't just tread over the territory that a film like Goodfellas did. It's about, it looks at gangsters and the role of the mafia in American history, and it also kind of drains a lot of the excitement from it. It's looking at it through more of an old man's perspective.
I don't disagree. Oh, sorry about that.
Anything else was The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance from the 60s, where John Ford also took two major stars, John Wayne and Jimmy Stewart, and put them in a Western. And he'd done tons of Westerns before, but started questioning some of the values and some of the traits that we associate with Western films. I think Scorsese did the same thing with gangster films.
I don't disagree with you. I think it's also interesting to note that as someone who I can't say that was an expert because I haven't watched Irishman all the way through, I have to note that in this century, Martin Scorsese will have gone 6 for 8 for his films getting in the Best Picture nod. And I was hoping that he wasn't going to be sort of going to get in automatically because he's everyone's favorite director. It appears that this is a film that both the public and the critic is congruent with what Oscar's going to do tomorrow, so I'm not as worried so much. I wish they didn't put in Hugo and Wolf of Wall Street because I think those were a bit weaker than the Fields, but I mean, you can't reverse history, so we're going to hold on just a second.